Section86.com. We're changing the world of podcasting one show at a time.
86 Productions.
Take what you wanna take. Don't leave me here. Lasting leap years ever your fear of the one and only love.
Hello and welcome to Off the Mark, the best podcast providing the most in-depth insight and analysis into the world of professional wrestling. On today's show, we have Aaron, Roger, and Doug to join me as we discuss this month's view from the turnbuckle. So let's talk NXT TakeOver 25. Doug, what were your thoughts on this pay-per-view?
It was another enjoyable performance from NXT. Nothing surprising. I don't think it was one of their best ones, but some great matches and definitely some surprises.
Yeah, I gotta say, my low-key favorite match of the night was Riddle and Strong. I think that was just a phenomenal match. That was one that it got the show started off really hot. Typically, they start off with the tag titles, but I feel like this was the perfect way to start because it was strong style and there was enough believability with it that it made it seem like they both wanted something, even though they weren't fighting for anything necessarily. It felt like the winner of this match would, challenge for like the North American title or the world title, the NXT world title. And so like this was easily one of my favorite matches, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, really 5 matches. I'd say 2 great matches. The tag match I thought was fantastic. That ladder match was really well done. I don't even like the Forgotten Sons, and I thought they played their role very well. The Street Profits shined in this match, and rightfully so. Undisputed Era goes without saying. And Orkin and what's the other guy?
Lonnie Orkin and
Danny Burch.
Yes.
Yeah, they're fine. I mean, they're generic, cookie cutter creator wrestler 1 and 2, but they did their job. Like, they can go. And it was a fine match, real strong. Everything Aaron said is correct. That match was fantastic. It reminded me a lot of kind of like that middle of the card match. It's always really good. Riddle versus Dream. It wasn't as good as like Gargano versus Ricochet, but very solid. Probably my only gripe was I'm kind of getting tired of Johnny Kickout. Like, and I'm not saying, again, not a bad match, but kind of like what we alluded to at TakeOver New York. There's a certain spot for a kick out, and I feel like Gargano kicked out of like 4 finishers. Like, it just seemed excessive and a bit too much. And like, I don't look, I'm not going to be a hypocrite and say I'm mad at Roman kicking out of every finisher and then be okay with Gargano kicking out of every finisher. 1 finisher kick out, fine. I've learned to live with that. 3, 4, 5. It just got to the point where it was like, how many times does Cole have to hit you with something before you stay down? Still a good match, but just a little bit too much of the kick out. I'd rather there be more signature kickouts or be more creative with it. Have him be close to the ropes, have him get bounced out of the ring. You can find a way to escape finish without just kick out, kick out, kick out, kick out, kick out. But again, if that's my biggest complaint, you probably put on a really good card. And this was a really good card. Oh, and Io Shirai just randomly dropping herself into the Kira Fuda clutch was stupid. That was the only part of the match that sucked. It was just dumb. And she's like, hey, I'm going to win. Okay, choke me out.
Yeah, I do agree with. I thought Riddle and Strong opening the show up was great. I just the show overall, but was great. But I thought that was a very strong opening. I'm really excited that the Street Profits finally got their title win that I think they deserve for a while. Even though there's one Marty Jannetty on that squad, and he'll be gone eventually. But right now, I think the Street Profits are tearing up, and I'm really happy about that. The one thing we need to talk about is Tyler Breeze came back to NXT, and he took on Velveteen Dream. Roger, what did you think about the build-up for this feud, and also just the match that they had at TakeOver?
First off, I need you to put some more respect on the name of Marty Jannetty. That man constantly gets thrown under the bus. Almost everybody next to Shawn
I wouldn't
Michaels.
say thrown under the bus, but maybe out the window.
Yeah, I mean, like being the Marty Jannetty team just means you weren't the greatest wrestler of all time. I'm sorry. There's a lot. Kurt Angle next to Shawn Michaels is the Marty Jannetty of that team. Like, it just is what it is. Anyway, moving on. I liked the build up to this. I thought it was a great usage of Tyler Breeze because he isn't doing anything on the main roster. He was an NXT mainstay. It's the perfect opportunity for him to come back and say, okay, I helped build this brand, which is true. It's not a lie. He was part of kind of the early takeovers and things like that, tore it up in that Fatal 4-Way years ago. Good feud. The right guy won. I like the way Dream won because Dream seems to be in this interesting between heel and face. Like, he's very tweenerish. He's leaning more towards face, but he still does heelish things. Also, I think this is the best that Tyler's looked in quite some time. He can still go. I hope this leads to more people coming back to NXT because if they're not going to be used, looking at you, Asuka, bring them back down and have them actually in featured prominent roles to help build up what is kind of a bit of a thin NXT roster for the moment. But you throw on Asuka, you throw on Tyler Breeze, and all of a sudden that roster is just full of stars again.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And this is also a really good match, surprisingly. And I don't say that because either of them can't wrestle. It's that, honestly, for Tyler Breeze, I haven't seen him wrestle in probably 3 or 4 years. And I hate to say that. I haven't. So I forgot how good he really was. And those two together put on a really great clinic, I thought. I actually was kind of thinking during the match that they could be a really good tag team, too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was there thinking, like, if Dream lost the North American title and then, they talk about, hey, why don't we go after some tag titles together? And, I know that you have Fandango and Breeze. That was kind of thrown together for the main roster. I think that you could do some fun stuff with Fandango and Dream. I think that they could have some really fun moments together.
You mean Breeze and Dream?
Breeze and Dream, sorry. Breeze and Dream. So, but yeah, no, it's still, either way, great match. I'm looking forward to what they do at TakeOver SummerSlam, Toronto. I think that it kind of sounds like they're set up for a 4-way. But either way, it's still, I think, going to be really great.
I agree. I think it's great that they're bringing down some people. I think Killian Dane showing back up on NXT was good. I think there's a couple other people that they have talked about moving back to NXT, which would. I mean, these people aren't being used on the main roster. Get them seen, get them some exposure, or more exposure on NXT. Tyler Breeze is a great example of it. He is a main eventer on NXT. You move him up to Raw or SmackDown, and he gets buried.
And one thing also, the women's match was really good too. Baszler retained. Do you think eventually they're going to just take the title off her, Doug?
I think that eventually they'll just do. Hopefully, they'll just do one of those things where she just takes it up to Raw or SmackDown and starts challenging people up there for some competition, or even like Roger was saying, bring Asuka back to challenger. Bring back some of these other women that you're not using on the main roster on a consistent basis to challenger. If she's not getting competition in NXT, move her up. Even with the title, move her up. And then have her drop it, and then do your women's tournament again to declare the new champion.
There have been 2 women, technically, at this point, who've never lost. Or I guess Shayna did lose briefly to Kairi, but Asuka still has a legitimate claim to, hey, no one's ever beaten me for that title. So if you wanted to go to Toronto and say, hey, we're not you, because her being in that Kabuki Warriors thing is meaningless. Like, that's stupid, in my opinion. You bring Asuka down, you say, Shayna can say, I've cleaned out the division. I've beaten every single woman in this division, and Asuka music hit. The crowd will go wild. You have a setup at Asuka going, you haven't beaten me. Shayna, of course, would immediately have to accept the challenge. You go right there. And that's the type of match that could main event an NXT card. Like, those 2 are probably the 2 most dominantly booked women. Let them do 1 or 2 matches. Gold. Like, if Evolution were being a thing again, that could main event that. Like, that is a money-making feud, and Asuka's not doing anything. So let her go back down to NXT. This match was fine. I don't know. Io Shirai, I think she's really good in the ring. Part of it is that she doesn't have a great promo style, and her personality is that she's really good in the ring.
But not even in the same way that like Kairi Sane or Asuka, where they have a presence about them, they have a natural charisma without even having to open their mouth. They look like superstars. And Io Shirai, not that she's bad, but it's just different. It's not the same as the other 2. The other 2, I think, are better.
She reminds me almost to the Luchador style. Rey Mysterio, you immediately knew he was a star. And if you look at someone like Kalisto, he's good in the ring, but he doesn't come off as a star the way that Rey does or the way that Andrade does. They look talented, but okay.
Yeah.
Now, you did mention Roger. You did mention the whole thing with Cole or with Johnny Kickout. Do you think that the direction they're going now with having him just, he has the title and then the next show he drops it. Do you think they're going to even start mentioning that he wins and then he loses right away?
I think they already mentioned that. I think they mentioned on TakeOver that he has never successfully defended a championship at TakeOver.
Oh, okay.
Lost the tag titles. They lost to Authors of Pain. He never even got the North American Championship to another TakeOver because he lost in his first defense. And he obviously lost the heavyweight championship the next time. So he's kind of being put in that Sasha Banks role where he can win it, but he can't defend it, which is fine. He is supposed to be the perpetual underdog. What I think is going to be interesting is that depending on how long this Gargano versus Undisputed Era feud goes on, you could see DIY versus Undisputed Era. I definitely like the idea if eventually Ciampa comes back. And of course, Gargano logically should not trust him, but he simply needs the help. And Ciampa is just not going to want to deal with Undisputed Era being in his way. So you could see the two of them teaming up, maybe even at War Games. I don't know how injured Ciampa is, but if you saw, Ciampa run out and attack or Cole and them, crowd is going to go absolutely nuts. So I think we're going to see that storyline before it's all said and done. My biggest fear, though, is that do not, under any circumstances, call up the Undisputed Era. Do not call Johnny Gargano up. Like, I saw what happened to EC3. No. Leave them in
Ascension. Just saying.
Who?
Ascension? Exactly. We forgot about Ascension.
To be fair, they at least have been doing something with Ricochet. They had a plan for Ricochet, it seems. And
where's Aleister Black?
Oh, he's brooding in the corner.
Where's Austin?
Brooding in the corner?
Yeah.
Well, he's moody.
Yeah.
So you remember.
That is true.
The spotlight losing his religion.
Oh, God.
Good night, folks.
I was going to say, if you mention more song names, Vince McMahon's going to create a new pay-per-view just for that.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Remember when we thought Great Balls of Fire was a terrible pay-per-view name?
I mean, that is the worst, right? Like, that has to be the
I feel like Stomping Grounds is equally crappy.
The Great Balls of Fire logo had 2 balls of fire on it, though.
Okay, but Great Balls of Fire was like, so if you think of it like a bad movie, right? There are some movies that are so bad that they wrap around the spectrum and become funny.
Mm-hmm. The Room, Street Fighter. Like, that's like the worst movie ever, but it's hilarious because it's so bad. Mm-hmm.
Stomping Grounds is just so terrible that it's just terrible. Like, there's no redeeming hilarity. And that also, at least Great Balls of Fire ended up being a good show. Stomping Grounds was not.
Yeah, but you got to sit on Roman's face, though. If you want the chair.
That is the closest I will ever be to being like Vince McMahon then.
See, this is why I'm glad you guys didn't go, because I can picture if you guys actually got those seats, you'd walk up, you'd see that, and I can picture Roger just doing a 180, and it's like, we're leaving.
Oh, no, if I'm going to leave, I'm getting thrown out. I'm taking that chair.
He's going to take that chair and hit Roman with it.
Yeah, I'm going to throw it in there like that guy through the briefcase, and then it's like, okay, I got to go. I'll see you guys later.
Yeah, I still think I'd say Great Balls of Fire is the like worst. Stomping Grounds is probably close number 2. They made The Bash because it's such a generic name. It wasn't even Great American Bash. It was just The Bash.
Yeah, that was pretty.
Yeah. Anyway, back to NXT. So Cole and Gargano. I definitely iterate what Roger had said. It seems like they're setting up for number 3. I actually really dislike when NXT does this. This is something they did this way too much with Gargano and Ciampa. I just felt like you need a breather in there. You can do a 3-way, you can do a 4-way. It seems like they're setting up with another one-on-one, and it's unnecessary, in my opinion. Like you have to allow some room to breathe, because if you don't, you're essentially making this the main roster. And how many times do we need to see Seth versus Corbin? Once. That's it, and it needs to be on a Raw. That's it. Like that's all you have to do. Something like this, I don't think it needs main event takeover. So I think if they were going with something else, maybe it could be good, but I don't know. I will say if this is going to be the main event for TakeOver Toronto 2, I'll probably be looking a little less forward to it.
I think if you're going to do a third match, it needs to be something different. It can't just be pinfall. This needs to be the one that settled the score, whether it's last man standing, steel cage, but I think they're doing steel cage in 2 days. Maybe ladder match, like maybe, you say, whoever gets up, and then they can't face each other when they're champion. So if Cole wins, Gargano doesn't get another shot. If Gargano wins, Undisputed Era doesn't get another shot. Something to that effect, because like you said, that's 3 matches in 5 months. That's too much. Let him breathe. You should be doing 1 match and maybe a rematch at SummerSlam. You shouldn't be doing match, because then it's the main roster. Then it's Kofi versus Dolph for the 757th time. It's just too much of a good thing. I don't care how good something is. If I saw Shawn Taker at WrestleMania 25, then saw it a month later, and then saw it another month later, I would have crapped all over it. But when I see it a year later, it's more entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
No, I just agree.
All right. My thought, what they really should do, I think they should have just a good old butt-kicking strap match. 4 corners. I think that would work. But,
Hey, Andy, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Can you name a good strap match?
Cena had one. I think it was against The Miz.
And he said good.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't hear the good part.
Also, I don't think Cena and Miz had a strap match. I think Cena and Miz had an I Quit match. I think Cena and JBL had a strap match. But I could be wrong because I try not to remember a lot of those matches.
Or maybe it was Sheamus.
I saw a Sheamus one that wasn't too bad. I saw that live. That was at Extreme Rules.
Was that with Mark Henry? Didn't he have one too? I don't know. Either way,
Again,
good.
No.
Oh, gosh, you know what? You are correct. It was John Cena versus JBL in 2009 at the Royal Rumble. Unbelievable.
Still doesn't need to be needed.
All right. So,
Wait. No, that was Four Corners. Eddie Guerrero won, where he just kept hitting the the corner after each time somebody was carrying him around, and he kept hitting.
That was JBL and him, right? But I thought JBL won the title from him like that, or he retained his title like that, where he pushed JBL into the fourth corner.
I don't remember.
It was a long time ago, obviously, because Eddie passed away.
Yeah, it would have been before 2005.
Day after Andy's wedding. Yeah.
I was like, oh, that sucked. But not the wedding, but him dying. But
Okay. Glad we got clarification.
Oh, God.
All right, now we're gonna leave NXT and we're gonna go to All Elite Wrestling, AEW. Gosh, I can't speak. AEW Double or Nothing. Doug, I want you to talk about the 21 man or person battle royale.
The 21 man battle royale, which was actually free on YouTube thanks to TNT. It was amazing. It was actually, I like how they did it. They did it in a card style where they had groups of people come out, and you were in the clubs group, diamonds, hearts, or spades, and then they had a Joker card. And I will say, just for how it was presented, and you had people fighting on the outside, people fighting on the inside. You had your nice little comedic moment with Orange Cassidy versus Tommy Dreamer, and the devastating kicks that were going on. Just devastating kicks. You have to see these kicks. If you have not seen these kicks, you've not watched real wrestling. Watch these kicks. These are amazing.
I want Orange Cassidy so badly in the WWE.
I know.
Him and R-Truth in segments I just want him to try to roll him up with these devastating kicks, and then the best schoolboy ever, where he barely gets him down, and then he loses. He's just
But your overall winner was Adam Page, who came out as the Joker card, which I don't know if it was how much of a surprise it was, but once you knew that Adam Page was in it, you kind of knew he was going to win it and go on. But they still had their nice little here and there going on. MJF had a great performance. I see the person with the most eliminations was a newcomer that I've never even seen or heard of in Luchasaurus.
Luchasaurus?
Have you guys seen or heard of Luchasaurus? This guy's, 7 feet tall almost?
Yep.
what?
Yeah, and he wears a lucha mask.
Yeah, and he wears a dinosaur mask.
Does he wrestle like Kevin Nash wrestles like a lucha?
Yeah.
No, the guy, he is absolutely amazing. But he eliminated 4 people, and some of the stuff that now that they've had him on being the elite, the greatest thing I think I've seen him is he had Jungle Boy up on his shoulders, and they're going through a grocery mart, and Jungle Boy's just grabbing stuff off the top shelf and putting stuff in a basket, and it's 5 minutes of just that. It's absolutely hilarious. But you had some like every Royal Rumble, you have your veterans. Billy Gunn was in it, Tommy Dreamer, obviously, and the blast from the past, Glacier.
Glacier showed up?
And he eliminated somebody. Do you remember who it was?
I don't remember who he eliminated.
Alex, right?
I want to say it was the Perfect 10.
Oh, did he take out Sean Spears?
Yep.
I think he did.
I gotta say, actually, Sean Spears had a really good showing. I always had a soft spot for Glacier. I always did. MJF is probably my new favorite in AEW. I think he is a very bright star there. He is essentially Jericho, even a polished Jericho, but he's 23 years old. He is. I see nothing but superstardom in his future. I think that he's going to be great. Orange Cassidy had a really good showing, as you had mentioned. Sean Spears and MJF had a really good back and forth where they were doing the 10 and then they flipped each other off, and that was really cool. Adam Page, he got an amazing reaction. I got to say, I was not very high on Adam Page, and I'm still reserved, but his reaction was fantastic. And so that kind of felt like energized him a lot more. And so he played off the crowd and the crowd really played off of him, which I think that actually goes to show a good performer, because if they can feed that energy to the crowd, that says a lot. So, he's going to be challenging for the vacant AEW title at All Out in Chicago. And I don't know. I mean, we'll see if he's able to best Jericho for it.
Speaking of that, Doug, and I have to ask you, because I've read some threads on this and gotten people's perspectives, but I'd call you the AEW expert out of the four of us. Do you think it's the right move to have Page versus Jericho for the AEW title, especially on the same card where it's going to be Moxley versus Omega, which in my opinion is the undisputed main event? That is the match that will have most people talking more so than this title match.
Right, and that was one of the things that I've been thinking about, and some of the questions that people that I've been watching and trying to determine. Hangman Page versus Jericho is going to be the main event because it is for the title. But you're right. The thing that people are going to be talking about most is going to be this new up-and-comer Jon Moxley taking on Kenny Omega. And, I mean, this is an exciting time, and that'll be a great match. And I'd love to see how they're going to stack this card in the aspect of or what they're going to do for who's going to be the opener versus because can you really have that match go on right before your title defense? I can't see it. I think you're going to need to have something in the middle or in between to separate it. But I'm afraid that people are going to be more excited and more into Kenny Omega versus Jon Moxley than they are Chris Jericho versus Hangman Page. And it is a shame because I have watched Hangman wrestle before, and he is a great wrestler. And then you have Chris Jericho, who is by far one of the best and probably would be an instant classic into the Hall of Fame as soon as he stops wrestling. But kind of past his prime. We'll see how it goes. He can still put on good matches. It's not like it's going to be Goldberg Undertaker or something like that. It'll be a good match, but I think everything's going to be more excited about Omega Moxley.
Goldberg Taker was Andy's feud of the year so far.
Yes.
And match of the year.
Yes.
Definitely match of the year. A feud that, lasted 5 days.
Doug, I have one question. Do you like that they arrived at this title match? Do you think that just having a battle royal with mostly mid-carders plus the winner of Jericho versus Omega is the best way to have gotten here? Or do you think they should have done something different?
I like the idea of Omega and Jericho fighting for the chance to go into the title match. That part I do like. The battle royal aspect of it was but at the same time, it was supposed to be Adam Page versus Pac to see who was going to go into the title match. So them changing it to the battle royal due to whatever issues it was that I don't think they've ever really officially announced it. And I'm thinking some of this might be a little bit of a work, but I have no problem with them moving the battle royal into that, because there were a couple people that you could see as possible contenders in that battle royal to legitimately have a title match. But there wasn't enough of them to make it a legitimate.
Now, Aaron, what did you think about the Cody versus Dustin match?
Oh, it was great. Meltzer rated it 5 stars. I would say that, I would probably have done 4.5 or so. I mean, it was a fantastic match. There's really good storytelling in there. The build up to it was actually really good because they did it all on YouTube. They did it all online. And it was Cody talking about, I love my brother, but, I'm ending an era. I'm tired of the Attitude Era being talked about. We're going to kill that. And going into that match, it was brother versus brother. And you felt like Cody, the younger brother, had something to prove. And I like that. I thought that it was really great. There was a lot of blood, maybe even too much blood.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I don't think that word means what you think it means.
And the end of the match was really good too. I think that's also something that it might even be a lost art is there was the opener, Cody destroyed Triple H's throne, whatever. And then the ending, and he's like, I need a partner. I need my brother, for a match against the Young Bucks, who he says are the best tag team in the world at their next pay-per-view event. And he's like, I need you. And like, that was such an emotional moment, especially after they had this knockdown, drag out fight. And then he's like, I only can trust one person, and that's you. And I was like, oh, wow. Like this does something, like not just the build up, but the ending, the conclusion to the match. Yeah. I mean, like, I guess I could see why it would be 5 stars. It was fantastic. And, Dustin is not going to be a everyday performer by any means. He'll probably only have this one match, maybe another one, but for the most part, not really a whole lot. So I think that this was a great one to have, and it's a great one to sell the pay-per-view on.
And Roger, did you get a chance to watch that match as well?
I actually haven't seen it yet, though I have a bit of a question revolving around Cody getting a 5-star. If a 5-star is no longer the top of the scale, what does a 5-star match actually mean?
Yeah.
Because apparently you can get up to 6.5.
I think it was 7.
Is there a 7-star match out there?
I think it was 1-7, yeah.
Is that the Okada Omega?
Yeah.
So what does 5 stars actually mean? Like, not to go on much of a rant, but like having like looked at the reviews, and maybe Meltzer's either changing his scale or he's getting a little bit softer in his age, but like, okay, this was 5 stars, and apparently Cole and Gargano both were 5 stars. What? I don't understand what a 5-star match means anymore. Like, does that just mean it was very good? Does that mean it was perfect? Because perfect would be the best. And if the best is now 7, this was then just essentially very good.
He's becoming the Oprah of wrestling, where you get a 5-star match, you get a 5-star match, you get a 5-star match. And he's just handing them out like candy now.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I would probably do like 4.5,
Yeah.
Like, it was very good.
It was a very good match.
Like, the Omega Okada, like their finale, that was easily a 5-star match. Like, I'd say that was the best 5-star match probably I've ever seen, But either way, it's still like, it's a 5-star match. If you're rating songs, there are songs that you're like, oh yeah, like these are my 5-star songs. There's like one that's better than the other, and that's what Meltzer essentially is trying to do, which is stupid, but it is what it is.
Yeah, Meltzer is a rare breed. We'll just say that. Was it 6.25 stars? Was that right for Omega Okada?
Which time?
Yeah. Anyways,
You're all right.
Yeah.
So the Young Bucks defeated the Lucha Brothers. They retained the AAA titles. Doug, did you like some of the spots the Young Bucks did in this?
This might have actually been match of the night, I think. This was an amazing tag team match. And it was only a shame that the last time that they fought at All In, they didn't have the time to really put on a match like this. So the fact that they got the time, they got a full almost 25 minutes match in, and it really felt nonstop throughout the whole match. It was exciting the whole way through, and I was very surprised to see that the Young Bucks actually retained. I thought this would be the chance for the Lucha Brothers to come out and show their thing and get the AAA titles back, but the Young Bucks performed on the show and ended up being the victors.
Now let's talk about Jericho. He defeated Kenny Omega, of course. Did you think that this actually was, because like to me this was an okay match to me. I didn't think it was like the best, but I'm curious on what your thoughts are on that.
It was a really good match. Easily, I think probably my second favorite on the card. I think the top 3 in order would be Cody, then Chris, and then the tag match. It was a very good match still, and anytime you have Kenny Omega wrestling a top-notch match, this one went the distance of 27 minutes, and it never felt that way. And I was kind of surprised at Jericho's new finisher. I don't think it's as devastating as anything else that he's ever done. But the storyline through the match it really came out to be more of a blood feud type of match, and ended up being a really, really, really good match. And several times I thought Kenny was going to win. Several times I thought Chris Jericho was going to win, and entertained me all the way through.
Yeah, I agree with Doug. I will say the Judas effect. They were really trying to put this over on YouTube, and they're like, oh, it's one of the most devastating moves is when you hit an elbow like that. And when you're watching the montage, he's hitting it super fast. Like he is just going like bam, just smacking the elbow right in the face, you know, in the punching bag super fast. And that looks really great. And it's perfect when you're at 100%. When you've been wrestling for 20 minutes and you're gassed and you're, you know, in your late 40s, and he's in better shape than I am. All right. I will say that. Jericho's in way better shape than I am. But he was still gassed. And then he hits one of the weakest elbows I think I've ever seen. And that's the finish? Like, are you serious? Like, not even a code breaker? Not a lion tamer? Like, that's how you're going to end the match? That's essentially like having this really hard fought battle. It's Undertaker Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 25, and Shawn beats Taker with a roll up.
But at least in a defense of a roll up, that's a time honored tradition.
Mm-hmm.
Like that that reminded me of when you played like No Mercy against your friends and you kick it off with finisher, and then you hit the weak grapple, and then you hit him with the back elbow smash and pin them, and you're like, really? That's what I won with? Because that elbow smash sucks. Like, look, Jericho is a great wrestler. I'm not going to dog him. He's fantastic. He's reinvented himself. He's in many great things.
Mm-hmm.
That finisher looks terrible. And the thing is also, there are certain people that certain moves work with. Matt Riddle throwing an elbow makes sense. Matt Riddle is a former MMA fighter. He obviously throws vicious strikes. Andrade throws a vicious back elbow. When you see it and it makes contact, you're like, wow, that could knock you out. Jericho threw the worst elbow I've probably ever seen. This is also Kenny Omega, the guy who went 60 minutes with Okada and survived, I think, a Rainmaker. I'm sorry.
Multiple Rainmakers.
Yeah. The Judas Effect should not be taking him down. I get it. It's different continuity because there's a different, but come on. Like that, I disagree with that. That's fine if Jericho wants to catch you out of nowhere with that, or if that had been like through a chair or something. I don't know. But that finisher needs to go away. Go back to the Codebreaker. Go back to the Lion Tamer. Bust out the double powerbomb. He's got enough great moves in his arsenal that he should not be relying on. And if he wants to do something safer, maybe the Codebreaker is too bad of a bump, come up with something else. I'd rather a DDT, a pile driver. A pile driver would have been great right there because it's not a move you see very often. So if he just drops him on his head, I'd have been like, wow, that's a fine finish. But a back elbow to Kenny Omega? No, absolutely not. Other than that, from what it sounds like, it was a great match. I have heard nothing but good things about this. The only thing that I thought was strange was it clear that Jericho was going heel before the match?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Now,
definitely.
After the match, there was something really cool that happened, which was John Moxley made a surprise entrance. And he came out and he attacked both Jericho and Omega, but he really focused on Omega. And it seems like they're going to, well, obviously, it's been announced. They're having a match at All Out. What did you think of this segment, and what do you think about Moxley and AEW?
Well, Moxley came out and he did the very Shield-esque come through the crowd stuff, and he just came out and everyone was cheering because they knew it was Dean Ambrose.
Who?
Yeah, this guy. He used to be in WWE. He was in the Shield. They thought, Vince McMahon really thought he was gonna, just do this movie thing, get that out of his,
I just thought this was a new wrestler, John Moxley, in his new debut.
No, I have seen this John Moxley wrestle a few times. I saw him wrestle a guy named Brodie Lee, and they tore it up on the opener match of all things. Definitely a match to check out. Moxley versus Brodie Lee. Check it out. But yeah, so he came out. He went after, if I'm correct, he went to Omega. Then he went to Jericho. Then he just kept going. Him and Omega just kept going at it. And then the show ended with Moxley out on top. So, and then shortly after they announced that it was going to be Kenny versus Mox at All Out. So I thought it was a strong thing having another established, I would say national star or world star, if you want to say that. Someone who's on the. Everyone knows that, hey, it's Dean Ambrose, but he goes by John Moxley as well. And then you also have Chris Jericho, of course, as well. And I think that actually says something about All Elite Wrestling. So the fact that he came out, smart thing to do. Doug, did you think this was the smartest thing they could do? Have him come out now?
Definitely have him come out now, and to put him instantly into a match with Kenny Omega. You have the hot buzz of him showing up. Why not put him with your probably top star of your promotion in Kenny Omega, to have them give probably what will be maybe an 8-star match at All Out. Who knows with Meltzer's ratings. But it'll be interesting to see, and I'm very excited for it. And what better way? And I like how Moxley is doing a lot more of his kind of hardcore style, or strong style, or whatever you want to call it. His whole gimmick, attitude, and demeanor is fantastic as John Moxley. And I'd say my bigger surprise was that he even showed up at New Japan Wrestling and won the U.S. title there, and is also now in the G1 Climax.
Yeah, CJ Parker was not happy about it. I mean, Juice Robinson. But Roger, what were your thoughts when you first heard that John Moxley, formerly known as Dean Ambrose, shut up at All Out? Or Double or Nothing, I'm sorry.
I was happy that he wasn't retiring. I don't know if we had talked about this on the podcast, but I remember thinking he might just be done. Like, there was a chance I knew that he could go to AEW, a chance that he'd go somewhere else. But I also could believe that he was so burned out, I thought he might be CM Punk too. That he was just like, you know what? I've made enough money. He's always talked about how he saved his money. His house is paid off. He could have just been so burnt out from the awful creative process over at the E that he was like, I'm done with this. I don't want to do this anymore. So seeing him at All Out, seeing him at NJPW, he looks like a rejuvenated man who just got his freedom. Like, he looks happy. He looks like he's having fun. He seems to enjoy the much more edgy product that he can do. Like, he is not restricted by the Disney corporate environment. And I think, if anything, he is a beacon of light for a lot of people who see what's going on outside of the world. It's like, hey, this isn't 2003 anymore. There are other viable entities now. And you know what? If you're not being used properly in the E and you have enough money to do it, it's time to, strike out on your own. I actually have a question for you, Doug, and this kind of feeds back into what we talked about last time, is that apparently the buy rate for this was very, very good. Mm-hmm. How do you think this impacts AEW's future going forward? Because that was, I think me and Aaron had a similar concern of like, who is your draw? This was maybe 100K, I want to say. I mean, it was at least within that range.
Right.
That is a fantastic drawing for really not having megastars. Like, Jericho's obviously the biggest name. A lot of people may have assumed Punk was coming. Maybe people assumed Ambrose was coming. But it's not like they were promoted enough you could say you give them credit. This is basically just AEW promoting what they had. That seems like a very, very positive early return.
I think you underestimate their popularity level via being the elite on YouTube and all the social media stuff that they do. They have an amazing amount of fans online. I think independent wrestling right now is at the peak of its fandom even. And I think that's a lot to contribute to the WWE in the aspect that they haven't given us anything to be so excited about, that people are starting to check out new programs. They're starting to check out new wrestlers. They're starting to check out other things. I know after watching this, I've been watching a whole bunch of Orange Cassidy matches and just absolutely loving every single one that I've seen. Becoming a big fan of his. And if he ever comes into the area, I would love to go see him wrestle live. And I think that's what we've come into now is people are bored with WWE. They're trying to get something else. They want something else. They want something new. They want something to believe in. Wrestling fans have not had something to believe in since probably the Monday Night Wars. Ring of Honor has done a decent job. NJPW has been on the rise, but I'm kind of wondering how well they're going to do now that some of their stars, which were Cody and basically the whole Bullet Club, have now created AEW. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see a partnership with NJPW and AEW sometime in the future, but it'll be interesting to see what they do together, or if they do kind of stay in the separate, but we'll share a couple wrestlers kind of thing.
I think NJPW's American expansion is over. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically what AEW just swallowed up, especially with the TNT deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think JPW comes into America anymore, other than maybe a show here or there.
I mean, they still are on Access TV, so that does help. But I don't think that many people have Access TV compared to TNT, because pretty much every basic cable channel package out there offers TNT.
No, I will say I was kind of surprised that they announced that they were going to go to TNT due to the fact that when we went to when Aaron and I went to C2E2 and AEW had their little thing there, and then we stayed late for a Eric Bischoff and Tony Schiavone podcast kind of thing. and they were announcing that TNT might be done. Like, you won't be calling it TNT for much longer anymore. And they were actually celebrating it because they blamed TNT more for the destruction of WCW than anything. And so when I heard that AEW was going to TNT, I was a little bit taken back just from hearing that news from there. So we'll see what it does, though. I look forward to seeing it. But, you know, like I said, if WCW was having such a huge problem with them, is this going to be something that they can branch out and kind of be a little bit more edgier and get that more adult-oriented fan base?
I mean, I think TNT also, they don't have any original programming, to my knowledge, that people watch.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You had to throw that in there.
Sports. They have sports, live sports, but like as far as series, dramas, like what people talk about around the water cooler do not involve TNT shows. They're HBO shows, there's shows on the normal network TV, Fox, CBS, stuff like that. I couldn't even tell you a TNT show.
Law and Order.
Playoffs. Huh?
Law and Order.
Is that on TNT?
Probably.
Yeah, probably.
Not anything new. I just
on NBC, I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have syndication. So, yeah, hopefully AEW can be kind of what Raw was to USA. But also couldn't tell you a show on USA either, besides Raw and SmackDown and Walker, Texas Ranger.
Crisley?
Oh, that guy.
Yeah, Chrisley knows best.
Biz Mizes. Yeah, I was just going to say that.
If WWE would book Chrisley in a match with somebody hardcore to beat him for an hour, I would throw my hands.
Him and Stone Cold in the triple tier cage.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Be like,
Well,
no,
either way, so
get to the top.
AEW, they have a couple other pay-per-views coming up. They have Fright Fest and then Fight for the Fallen. And then those are kind of smaller ones, though. The next big one is going to be All Out, which is going to be in essentially Chicago suburbs, Hoffman Estates. And we'll see how that goes. I think that's going to be a really huge pay-per-view. I know Doug and I, we tried to get tickets. We couldn't. We're going to see if we can still go. So we'll have to buy them on the secondhand market. So we'll see.
Wait a minute, Aaron. That same day, isn't that the same day as the QI Sports League draft?
Day after is the draft.
Not anymore. It's not. You're moving that draft back.
What?
Draft is on Sunday, and
Yeah, draft's on Sunday.
Oh, my bad. All right.
Doug and I could do StarCast and All Out.
Yeah, I can't do StarCast.
So maybe not StarCast. So we'll do All Out.
All right. Okay. So, future AEW, Roger, everything that you've heard and seen, what do you think?
So far, so good. I mean, it looks like they have. So unlike WCW, which I think took the approach of let's take all of the pre-made WWE stars and just push them to the top and basically try to siphon off the already established fan base, it looks like AEW is basically saying, hey, you're sick of the same old guys, so we're going to give you a bunch of new people to look at. And kind of I think what their goal is to get people to what Doug did, to do exactly what they did. Oh, this Orange Cassidy guy is kind of funny. Let me look him up. This MJF guy, he's really good on the mic. Let me look him up. And basically get you just to find out who these characters are. Do you want to tune in and see more of them? Kenny Omega, the average fan has probably not seen more than 2 or 3 of his matches because NJPW is probably the biggest exposure he's had. You're probably going to go watch some of his matches. Chris Jericho. If you saw Ambrose or Moxley show up, you know him. You know Cody because you probably watched if you're a wrestling fan and you're watching this, but that's probably it. Like Young Bucks you probably have heard of because of the Bullet Club, but they have just a lot of guys who's like, I want to look this up. I want to see who this guy is. They're not doing the mistake I think that TNA made of let's take every washed up WWE guy and basically shoot him to the top. There are some guys who most certainly, if you were to let them go, you want to utilize them because they're talent, but that doesn't mean everybody that they cut. So far it's good. My question will be, of course, long-term. All Out did very well, or All In did very well. Double or Nothing did very well. Can they sustain that? Are they smart enough to do 4 pay-per-views? Don't do 13. Don't do 14. And what's their weekly show going to look like? Because weekly shows seem to be the bugaboo for everyone who's not named NXT. And even NXT only does an okay weekly show. It's not bad. It's not knocked down. I got to see this every week TV, but it's good. It's good enough to get me to Takeover, which is great.
Which that's a different topic. But Aaron, same question. AEW, are they doing it right so far?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Roger with what you said. I think it's the sustainability. It was when it was All In. this was kind of the super show of the indie wrestling, right? And it was amazing to see. I mean, like Okada was there, you know, and then you had people from Ring of Honor, and you had the NWA title. So this was like the super show for indie wrestling, and All Out obviously sold out in 15 minutes, and it was super hard to even try to get tickets. So who knows what's going to end up happening? If they carry this momentum, I think that we could have some really good wrestling on our hands. But if not, then it'll be another Ring of Honor. Essentially, it'll be kind of indie. It'll be niche. It'll be good, but it's not going to be WWE or WCW.
And Doug, final word.
Final word is we only talked about a few matches from this card. Please go and watch the rest of it. Even though we didn't mention like SoCal Uncensored's tag team match, the women's match, or some of the other matches, they were all really good matches. There's a lot of great young talent that I've never even heard of that I will be definitely checking out. The Kip Sabian versus Sammy Guevara was an excellent match, especially even knowing that was a free preview match. Some of the moves that those guys did, you could tell they were going all out in that aspect of this was their time to shine, and they took advantage of it. And I think that you're going to see a lot of that in AEW, is a lot of people who have not had a chance to shine, a lot of people that haven't had their names out there that are very, very talented wrestlers, and you're going to see them. And I think that this the undercard showed me that their hourly TV show is going to be entertaining, even without even knowing who these people are.
Doug, final question.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you want AEW to poach the most?
Oh, that's a good question. Honestly, if I could pick anybody right now, I want them to take.
Let's say anyone realistic. You can't take Brock. You can't take Roman. That guys you're not going to get.
No. I want Ricochet to move over there. I honestly do. They do a little bit more of the flippy stuff there. They do a little bit more of the high action or high impact moves and everything there. When I watched him as Prince Puma in Lucha Underground, some of the stuff that he did there was, especially with like Johnny Morrison or Johnny Raw or Johnny Nitro or whatever you wanted to call him. Johnny, I'm on this show. I mean, he can be Johnny AEW. Yeah. They were great matches, and to see him go up against a Kenny Omega, a Cody, I think it would be a phenomenal thing. And he'd be utilized a lot more in AEW than he ever will be in WWE.
All right, so let's thank our sponsor, HostGator. Are you a blogger or podcaster? Or are you just not happy with your web host? You need to check out HostGator.com. You're going to find web hosting made easy and affordable. HostGator offers unlimited disk space, unlimited bandwidth, one-click strip installs, or free stability hands on the best control panel out there. Stop by today and try a free demo. It's the easiest, and if you use special coupon code off the mark, you're going to save 25% off your web hosting packages. So what do you got to lose? Check out HostGator.com and take a bite out of your web hosting costs. Also, make sure you check out 686's off the mark page. Click on the banner at the top, say big on items.wshop.com if it's working, of course. So for our monthly topic, a couple of us, Aaron and Roger, got to go to Raw on Monday. So you guys take it away.
Well, I mean, this is our first time going to Raw in 6 months, 7 months. It's probably the first time I've watched Raw since before WrestleMania. Post WrestleMania, I usually don't watch Raw because, well, those of you who know, Raw is not my favorite thing in the world to watch. This is going to be your last show in Seattle for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
How was it for you?
It was great. It was fantastic. We've been to some pretty historic Raws, I would say, out here. I think the one that I can remember the most, and I think it was actually the first one we went to, was the Daniel Bryan getting cheered.
Daniel Bryan takes over the Undisputed ceremony.
Yep. So there was that one. I think after that, we did one here, and we did one up in Everett, which was right after Cena got his nose caved in. After that was
I high-fived the Green Arrow.
Yep, that's right. Daniel Bryan retiring. We were at that one. And then I think after that was the one with Elias getting booed out of the building for mentioning the Supersonics.
Yep. We've also done a SmackDown in there because Daniel was a guest referee with Miz and Ambrose.
That's right. We did a SmackDown.
Yeah.
And then this one, which probably was the best one, top to bottom. It was. Some of the other ones had more memorable moments, but this was top to bottom one of the best Raws that we've been to. We were in the second row, so like we were very close to all the action. Started off with Rollins and Becky, and then they did their whole thing. Usos and the New Day took on Daniel Bryan and the Revival, and Daniel Bryan, of course, got cheered like there was no other because he's essentially from the area, and that was really fantastic. The one thing that was interesting, though, and this is going to be something that we talk about a little bit later, is that they had decided that they're no longer going to wrestle during commercial breaks, and so this was something that really played in to all the wrestling that happened, because you probably noticed that there was a lot of stoppage then. And for anyone that was watching live, it was an elimination tag match. And so two teams got eliminated, and it became essentially just a tag match. So they decided to take a break. The Revival, who are good on the mic, they were running up and down Everett and saying that we were all terrible people and Seattle is a terrible place.
I don't know what they were saying because we booed them out of the building. Like, they could barely talk.
They probably actually had some of the best heat, I would say, of the night.
By far, they had the best. Yeah. They had good heat. Like, I know this is a thing people don't understand. There's go away, change the channel heat. Baron Corbin looking at you, unfortunately. And then there's I want to join in on the fun and I want you to get punched in the face heat. That is what the Revival has. And we booed them for a good solid 2-3 minutes of just like, and they wisely cut their microphones so they couldn't actually talk over us. And we just booed them and booed them and booed them. And it was a great experience. And it was a smart way to fill that essential. And everyone was like, oh, no, just give us 30 seconds to talk. And then like 30 seconds later, okay, just give us 2 minutes to talk. Okay, guys, we only got 5 minutes. And it was like really jerking us. It was hilarious. And, we've said this when we went to Access in Dallas about how Dawson and Wilder do a great job of interacting with the crowd. The moment Dawson came out, he pointed out some guy in this ridiculous orange shirt and just went at it one-on-one and made it a fun experience. Then he did it with somebody in the front row, and it was like they just do a great job of interacting with the crowd. Wilder, I think at one point he gets picked up for like a neck break, and he's like, oh, my God. I mean, just really, really good interaction. So that match, great way to start the night. It was fantastic. They eliminated Bryan because the Revival turned on them, so the Revival got mega heat going into the break. I mean, it was surprisingly well-paced.
Yeah. I think the other thing that was really fantastic is that we saw 5 title changes, which was just like, you normally don't see even one on a show sometimes, not in particular Raw. We saw 5 title changes. It was fantastic. We saw Heath Slater win a title. We saw R-Truth win a title. We saw Cedric Alexander, EC3, and then R-Truth win the title back. Like, can you believe that? 5 title changes.
I can't believe we saw EC3 win.
Yeah.
That's the part that shocked me.
It's the only title in WWE that he'll ever get.
I hate saying that.
What was your favorite part of the night?
My favorite part of the night was probably the part that shocked me the most. Because, look, I don't care about Roman Reigns. I'm at the point of, like, it's not even fun to hate him anymore to me. Like, he's just boring. Like, we're at the point where, like, yeah, you beat cancer, so I really don't feel all that happy about booing you. So now I just don't care. Like, I'm in that in-between zone. Until your character changes to something more than cancer survivor, I'm bored of you. However, he was getting beat down by McIntyre. And okay, speaking of Shane McMahon, his nickname apparently is the best in the world. I did not know this because I don't pay attention to Shane McMahon. But they did a segment in between when they're doing the commercial break where they asked some kids, basically name that nickname. So they asked, this kid, who's the man? Who's the Kingslayer? Well, they asked the kid who the best in the world is. And the kid responded with CM Punk. And it was a child. It was a kid. It was not an adult. It's not one of us. Literally, the kid just responds. He goes, CM Punk. And the whole arena erupts into CM Punk chants. And the lady who was conducting the interview has no idea what to do. She's just looking around like,
She's been fired.
And the best part is I looked at Aaron and I was like, wait, who was that actually supposed to be? Like, I thought that was CM Punk immediately. So who were you talking? Didn't know that's what Shane went by. So really dumb question. She's probably gone. But they do, this 2-on-1 beatdown. Obviously, I'm filming, about to watch Shane do a coast to coast, and Undertaker's music hit. Just absolutely shocking. Caught me out of nowhere. Did not expect Undertaker to be up on a random Raw after a bad pay-per-view like Stomping Ground. He shows up, place goes wild. I think he choke slammed both of them or something like that. That was really fun. The only thing I hate is that McIntyre is getting buried because Him and Corbin should switch spots. Like if McIntyre were in the main event going against Rollins, that would be fun. If Corbin were getting the crap kicked out of him by Undertaker, yeah, whatever. I don't care. Like, he's a bodyguard. Like he looks like a TGI Friday's waiter. I said that 100 times. That guy is not a main eventer. Like when we saw McIntyre come out, the first thing we said is that guy is huge. Like he is a guy who jumps off the screen. He looks intimidating. He picked up the stage, and you're like, that is a frightening human being. When I see Baron Corbin, the only thing I can think of is I have 5 in my party. Like he does not look like, sound like, or move like a champion. He's not a guy you should be building your show around. He's not a guy who should be main eventing. Like he's an okay talker, but he's not special. There's nothing about him that is special, other than the fact that he may know your specials that he is serving you today.
Who are the 5 that are in your party? I'm just kind of curious.
Just gonna ask the same thing.
Yeah, somebody's got to pay.
All right. Just want to make sure. In which case, or an advertiser saying,
yeah, of course,
she's paying. 2 margaritas, please. That is amazing. I don't even know how I don't know how to follow that, but I agree with you. McIntyre live, and I mean, like I said, we were second row, so we got a good visual of him. He's built like a brick house. He is incredibly impressive. And I understand why Vince is going to push him. You know, I totally get that. I don't know why he's not in Baron's spot, though. I don't. I don't know if they're saving him for SummerSlam or they're saving him for something later, but he should be pushed.
And even the reaction he gets, like when he picked up the steel steps, look, obviously they're not heavy steps, but he just looked like such a monster when he picked those up. And like legitimately, those are like, I would not want that guy hitting me with anything. Like he looks scary, and that's what you want in a heel. He looks like a guy who, if you said, "Hey, pick a guy to walk down a back alley with you," I'm like, I'll take him. Yeah, because I'm not worried at all. Whereas like Corbin's wrestling in a dress shirt and slacks, and I'm just like, it kind of reminds me of a bad version of Corporate Kane. And Kane was scary when he was Kane, but Corporate Kane was like, it's kind of funny because he's schizo. Yeah, but I'm sorry, Corbin sucks. And McIntyre is a guy who is underutilized and should be towards the top of the card. He should be challenging for titles. He should be, of all the people who should be pinning Roman Reigns, it should have never been Shane McMahon. It should have been Drew McIntyre. And let Shane eat pinfalls.
Would you say that he should be kicking ass and taking names?
Yes, and chewing bubblegum. I'll buy the bubblegum. As a matter of fact, I wish Roddy Piper, rest his soul, were alive, because Roddy Piper is a mouthpiece for Drew McIntyre. Oh my goodness, you want to talk about a match made in heaven? That would be fantastic.
Now, Andy, you got a chance to watch Raw. I know that you had mentioned you saw us on multiple times, which is kind of cool. So I'll have to watch that back. But for you watching on TV, what were your thoughts? Did it seem like it was a good Raw? Did it seem like the segments like came off pretty well? Or?
So I'm actually watching it. And when it came on, I was more excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's Roger, there's Aaron. Oh my gosh, they're on TV. And that's what I first thought. And I was like, oh, this should be interesting. And then it felt like the segments flowed good, but the stoppage was annoying to me because I knew that, oh, they're going to commercial break now. Like I already knew that bothered me of all the things that happened. Because some of the stuff you said, like with the Revival, like interacting with the crowd, you can do that. You can just say, like, hey, if they say, hey, we're at break, one of them can roll out and then they can do the same stuff. I think that's a mistake right now. But the sad thing that's going to tick me off about it is that Vince is going to say, it worked. That's why the ratings were so high this time. It wasn't because Taker came back. It wasn't because it was actually a decent show. It's because we decided to do this, which I think is still a mistake. I think that you can have wrestling, you can do it, especially for like the main event. The main event was good, but like it felt kind of off at the same time because I'm correct, they went to commercial break on that too. But overall,
they did actually, and I'm kind of curious because I haven't seen it yet. The replay of it. Did the Bullet Club or the club came out right? Like
yes,
that was on
that
TV.
Was on TV.
And did AJ talk to them on TV as well?
Yes.
Okay. So at that point in time, they get back in the ring and they just hung out for 5 minutes.
Yeah, they just stood there. The lights went out, camera goes off, and they're just kind of chilling. And then like a promo showed up on screen.
Yeah. And
it was really weird.
Same thing with Kofi took on Sammy. Sammy wins. KO challenges Kofi. And then KO and Sammy, talk about how Everett sucks and it's not quite Vancouver, BC. It's not quite Seattle. It's somewhere in between. And so it sucks. And we were saying, Roger and I were like, yes, it does.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, you guys have an inferiority. I was like, yeah, I mean, if I lived in Everett, I'd have an inferiority complex too. Like, this place sucks.
Yeah. So they did that during the commercial. Kofi was throwing pancakes, that's what they were doing. So it didn't flow well. It really didn't. I felt like you can have that wrestling. And yeah, you can tell like, oh, this is the spot, the commercial break spot. Whatever. Like, go to the rest hold. But like, do something to entertain us and keep us on our feet. Because at that point in time, we were just sitting down and we're like, okay, we'll pull out our phones. Let's take a look and see what's on Squared Circle. That's what we did.
So to a point that I made before, and it's unfortunate. And let me say, again, Kofi is great. I'm really happy he got his moment in the sun. The first hour and 40 minutes flowed pretty well for Raw. Like, even that stupid tug-of-war between Strowman and Lashley, which was really, really dumb. It was quick. It got to the point. It set up what it needed to set up, which is obviously setting up a strap match. I was bored during Kofi versus KO and Sammy. And that's unfortunate because all three of them are good. And this is one of the things that me and Aaron talked about. Rollins feels like a main event champion. Kofi feels like a 10 o'clock champion. And what time did he come on? About 10 o'clock. And if you notice the energy in the crowd, it's very dead. No one seems to really be popping. Now, when he's talking, he's coming on his entrance, it's very over. But you didn't build him like a star. So you need to put him against other guys who have been built already to be a star, whether it be Strowman or Roman or guys who have invested value, hopefully after the fact Samoa Joe maybe make this work. Because I don't care. Like, I'm just not invested in his matches. In this show, if you cut out the Kofi matches and you cut out the Alexa matches and you go from the 24/7 stuff to AJ versus Ricochet, it's a great 2-hour show. Mm-hmm. I have no complaints. But that middle hour, that third hour, that sucked. And I don't care about Alexa, Nikki, Naomi, and Natty. And I didn't care about Kofi versus KO and Sammy. That's unfortunate. That I don't think he should have been on the show. I think he should be main eventing SmackDown anyway. But they were just dead time. And that, to me, is not what a WWE champion should be. He should never be, and we said this at the Rumble, AJ versus Bryan was hurt with the same pacing where it just felt like he was there and in the middle. Kofi just felt there. He doesn't feel like a guy you build your show around. He feels like an Intercontinental champion.
Did they have a dark match afterwards?
Yes. It was Rollins versus Corbin. So we took pictures of Rollins and left.
Okay, because at the show, it looked like all of a sudden that you guys were there and then you weren't. And that's what I was trying to figure out. I'm like, did they actually leave? Was this another WrestleMania thing? they
AJ
left?
versus Ricochet, we stayed, watched, enjoyed it. And they had already announced the dark match. So Seth, as champion, came out first. So he came over, we took the photos, got some photos of him and the thing. The moment Corbin's music hit, we looked at each other and said, it's time to go. Literally, we got up and said, okay, we're out of here. I just don't care. I'm sorry. That to me is what Baron Corbin does. If you want to get low ratings, you put Baron Corbin in the main event because he makes me change the channel or leave the arena. And honestly, I think the entire front row was gone too. Yeah. Like the people in front of us who paid $200 extra left. They were just like, we're done. We just don't care about Baron Corbin. Like, I know that there's this argument that any attention is good. All publicity is good publicity. Whether people want to admit it or not, there are people. Muhammad Ali was great back in the day about he made you want to watch him get beat up. But his style was obnoxious, he was engaging, and he was charismatic. There are other people who I just don't want to watch. Like, they're just boring. They're slow, they're plotting. Even watching them get the crap kicked out of them is not entertaining, and that is where Baron Corbin falls. Drew McIntyre, I'd watch him get the crap kicked out of him because he's entertaining. Corbin's not. And the more you and I hate to say it, Lacey Evans, not entertaining. Like, I get that she does this gimmick very well, but she is boring.
When Baron Corbin has to tell her that, hey, you have to go do this now at Stomping Grounds, because he put his hand over his mouth and told her what to do. That just says that either she's clueless or that bad. If Baron Corbin has to tell you what to do in a match,
she's probably
she's very new, and like even today, so like Corbin had a good line. I think it was something to the fact of like, why don't you take off, go shower, go to the back, fly home, put on an apron, and go make a sandwich for the man. And I was like, that's a pretty good line. Like, okay, that's a funny inversion of the traditional gender rules. And then Lacey said something really weird about like, or maybe I can put my hands on you. It was like something like alluding to the fact she hit him downstairs. And I was like, what? Like, was that supposed to be like witty or funny, or did you just like say that you kind of just touched him without like? It was weird. It was just, and it's one of those ones like maybe it was scripted, maybe it wasn't, but it was like she just doesn't really have any sort of, and I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but like there's just no conviction in what she. Well, yeah, she has no. She is a charisma vacuum, like Dana Brooke.
No, Dana Brooke is charisma vacuum.
She has no conviction in the words she says. Like when Samoa Joe says something, you believe this man is going to kill you. When Lacey Evans says something, I think I'm going to die for him.
Well, she needs to be taken out of the main event spot.
She needs to go back to NXT for a while, and then she can, because she wasn't there very long. It felt like.
I don't know if I would say she needs to go back to NXT, but Doug, yeah, I mean, you've seen a lot of Lacey. Your thoughts? I mean,
have I seen a lot of her?
I mean, how many matches has she legitimately had though? Like 4?
I mean, she was at the Royal Rumble that we were at,
and she sucked there.
Yeah,
okay, so 5.
She was horrible there.
Matches, the Rumble.
But even her NXT career was just what the Mae Young Classic.
That pretty much
okay in the Mae Young Classic, I recall, but she didn't. She wasn't
great.
Yeah, she wasn't great. Like Shayna stood out, Kyrie stand out, Candice stood out, Toni Storm stood out. Like there were people who looked really good. I don't remember thinking, "Oh, this Lacey Evans is a future bright star." Other than I think I made a joke of, "Well, she's blonde, so Vince is going to love her." I was joking. Bad. I shouldn't have spoke that into existence.
She's blonde and she has great assets for Vince.
Yeah. Also, she comes out in heels. Who jumps somebody wearing high heels?
Yeah.
Okay, besides Aaron, who jumps somebody wearing Yeah,
Well,
so I mean,
I think it's her backstory. That's the thing, because she's a Marine. She has a daughter. I think that plays a lot into it. And I thought that they would be like, "Oh, look, we're doing this great thing for women. That's fine. You know, there's other women that do that."
She's a heel, though.
yeah, she's not like a positive role model.
But I think that's what he wants to do in his mind. But you know, it'll change. You know, tomorrow she'll come out as a face. It'll be another Big Show thing. It's like we don't know what he is right now. It's like heel, face.
I think either way, like kind of closing thoughts. I thought that the Raw was actually really good and fantastic time. You know, normally, I mean, it's kind of flip a coin nowadays. I wouldn't even say flip a coin. It's roll a 20-sided die, and if you hit 20, it's gonna be a good Raw. And we hit 20, so you know that's a positive. You know, I know the next event that we're going to all together is gonna be the takeover in the Survivor Series, potentially All Out. We'll see. You know, for Doug and myself. But yeah, either way, it was good, and I think Extreme Rules could low key be enjoyable watch.
You mean tag match?
Yeah, tag match rules could be a low key enjoyable watch. I'm not saying it's gonna be good. I think it could be enjoyable.
I think
potentially
what this show shows me about WWE is that they have a structure that can work. They just have the wrong people in the wrong places. Like their foundation would be solid if they use the correct building blocks. If you remove Corbin and you put in McIntyre and you remove Lacey Evans and you put in basically any woman who's competent, because you have a lot on your roster, and did things like this. Because if this mixed tag was, you know, I don't know, Seth and Becky versus McIntyre and Nikki Cross, I'd be like, that's a good match. Like I would watch that and be entertained. But when you constantly put people in there who just aren't good and then refuse to utilize the people you do have, you get this weird situation of like half of the match is exciting and half of the match is trash. Okay, well, that works if it's one-on-one and each side has somebody good, but there's nobody on the Corbin side I want to watch in the ring at all. They're terrible. And then, you know, why is Shane McMahon a feature? Like, you know, again, there are ways to do this as well. Miz in that Shane McMahon role as the heel who hides behind the bigger, more intimidating guy works out very well. Shane McMahon doing it is like, I don't need to see you flop sweat all over the ring every single time. And it's just, there's a formula that could work, but they're not doing it well. I had a great time. It was fun. The hour drag. I feel bad for Kofi. I said it last time and I'm going to say it again. He is a mid-carder. He is not really main event champion. Absolutely glad he got his moment in the sun. He probably will never be champion again, though, because they clearly don't view him as main eventer, because this is not how you book a main event champion. But it's still a good card. Just they need to figure out something. Joe versus Kofi, this is his opportunity, in my opinion, to get put in a top tier field. If this doesn't work, it's over. Like, to me, I think his title run is a bust at that point.
I would actually argue the fact that Joe's going to win. I'd make that argument all
I think Joe might win as well. I wouldn't say it's a guarantee. I could see them saying it's time for Joe to get a title.
I think that they'll end up doing it, because I don't think you can do the underdog thing for too long. But I think that you could give him the WWE Championship, I think that would be the smart thing to do in this case.
And that's Raw superstar Samoa Joe challenging SmackDown superstar Kofi Kingston
Exactly.
for the SmackDown Heavyweight Championship, correct?
So brand split's done, I guess. Stupid wild card. Oh well, that's all the time we have for this month's show. If you're into the Twitter, you follow the show at Altamore86. I want to thank 86 Productions for hosting and editing the podcast. And I want to thank all of our listeners for taking the time to download and listen to the show. And for Doug Hahn, Aaron Hughes, and Roger Cave, I am Andrew Hughes.